Every post, every like, every click tells a story about you. But the question is, who's really listening? Our data isn't just information is power and someone's always collecting it. We share our lives to feel seen, but what happens when the algorithm knows us better than we do?
Denmark recently introduced laws granting citizens rights over their digital identity, including their face, voice, and personal data. How do you see this shaping the future of digital democracy and personal freedom?
Oh, that's a very good question. And there's really a lot to it. I think I will start out from really the trust. My starting point is that I don't fully trust these services because I don't think that we should trust them upfront. That is in part about the actual tool, it's how the tool is used, but it's really also about the organizations behind those tools. And if you choose to pay with data, you'd better be a bit cautious. For my case, I've chosen to pay with money in order to protect my data. I'm a tech guy since my childhood. I wrote my first software at the age of 8. Wasn't that much of a programmer back then, but the technical interest has always been there. I've been an IT consultant and trainer for half of my life. I'm a freelancer, and recent years it has mainly been about AI.
Well, then what emotional costs come with living in a world where algorithms increasingly shape our perception and attention very much?
Good part is that you can get a more tailor-made user experience. It can really serve you better. But the risk is that we will end really in echo chambers. We will really see the news that is compatible with what we already think. We might get to a situation where we don't see other perspectives to it. And
welcome to everybody. Today I have a special guest. My guest is Bjoern Jensen. Thank you for being part of Rewire to Rise today. Today's episode invites a reflection on how technology, AI, and innovation shape not just the systems we live in, but also the emotions, values, and decisions that define us as individuals and as a society. Well, your background and voice in the field of digital ethics and technology make this conversation both timely and necessary. Can you please tell us what you're doing and how you're working with AI tech in general? Thank you.
Yes. Well, I'm a tech guy since my childhood. I wrote my first software at the age of 8. Wasn't that much of a programmer back then, but the technical interest has always been there. I've been an IT consultant and trainer for half of my life. I'm a freelancer. And recent years it has mainly been about AI. And I'm so happy to have the opportunity to talk about the human aspect of this because it's very important.
Yes, it is indeed, absolutely, very much. What first drew you to explore the ethical and human side of technology?
There is a lot to that story. But to start out, it is new technology. And there will be mistakes, there will be pitfalls, there will be good scenarios and not so good scenarios. And really, in all of this, it is about whether these services will succeed in earning our trust or not. Because I don't think that we should trust them upfront, but they can succeed in earning our trust. And if they do, well, we'll continue to use the trustworthy services and let go of the not so trustworthy ones. And there are plenty to choose from. So I hope that will be part of the competitive landscape as well.
As AI becomes part of our daily life, how do you think it's changing the way we connect, trust, and relate to one another?
My hope and my belief is that it can really help us become more human when using it properly. And of course, it is about using it properly. I can say for my own part that I spend less time working with the help of these services, which allows me for more time for doing, well, what a human will do. I spend more time in nature. I spend more time with people. I do a lot of things offline. I also do my work, and there are differences from one time to another. That's still part of it, but it's really, to me, a tool. And when used properly and when also put away when time is right for that, there's a lot to gain.
I'm going to ask you one question related to this matter. How do you daily use AI?
I use AI on a daily basis. I use it for work. I use it for personal purposes. I sometimes type to the service. I sometimes use it with voice mode. I sometimes take pictures and make it understand those pictures, screen dumps, whatever. And it is really in a lot of aspects. I am curious by nature, and having this, so to speak, assistant that is always ready to answer is quite handy. But then again, it is a tool. It is just a machine, and it doesn't do the same thing that I would do in collaboration with the human beings. But I benefit a lot from that assistant, and that can be for professional purposes, that can be for private purposes, and it is quite flexible, especially if I use it properly, because it might misunderstand, it might give me wrong answers, and it is very convinced when answering, no matter if it answers correctly or wrongly. But then again, that would also go for communication with human beings. Sometimes we do misunderstand each other. Sometimes we remember incorrectly. Sometimes we have reasons to tell what might or might not be totally true, and sometimes we might even believe in something that others will see differently. So it is really, in many aspects,
how you approach
yes,
that,
very much,
right? That's how you approach with human beings. It's kind
exactly.
of the same idea, I suppose, right?
And I guess with human beings, you can build a connection and you can not succeed in building a connection.
Exactly.
You can earn the trust and you can lose that trust.
Yeah.
And it's not the exact same thing, but there are many similarities, really. And I start out by not trusting fully, and depending on what results I get, depending on how it all works, it will either increase my trust or let go of that trust. And I mean, it takes a lot of time to earn the trust. It doesn't take all that long time to lose the trust. And that is a in part about the actual tool. It's how the tool is used, but it's really also about the organizations behind those tools, because they might take it in one direction, they might take it in another direction, which is also related to the origin of the services, how it's connected to a lot of other services, what legal framework there is to it. So there's really a lot to the story. But when used properly by the providers, by the human beings, there are a lot of benefits, both in professional and in private life.
Again, I would like to insist on the human aspect process here to make others understand a tiny bit better how actually, or better, what is actually the AI as a tool and how actually can be used, because it can be used in a positive and healthy and good way. So it can actually, you can actually benefit from it. It's not only the negative side part of it, because like in everything in our lives as humans, there are so many things that can harm us, but also we can actually benefit from it. So again, I would like to ask you, do you use it as an AI agent? That means also for your personal interest or for your professional interest, you treat it as a friend, you treat it as an agent, you treat it as a teacher, you treat it like, what is it? How do you use it?
Oh, that's a great question. And there is really a lot to that story.
Yeah.
For a start, I'm not the typical user. I spend a lot of time on understanding these services. I'm curious about using different services. And just in short, I have paid subscriptions currently to about 15 different services. I have logins to about 50 services. I try to stay up to date on about 200 different services. And there are thousands of services out there. So it also depends on what actual tool I use. But to give a few highlights, in my personal life, I mainly use ChatGPT because it has memory. For my case, I started out with the free version when the service was launched. I upgraded at some point to the paid plus version, and later on I upgraded further on to the business version in order to get more functionality, in order to get the data protection, which is very important for me.
So
and
data protection, you only have that option such when you pay the subscription, not with the free version, right?
True. And I think if we understand the rules of this game, we're much better off, because really you can either pay with your data or you can pay with money. And if you choose to pay with data, you'd better be a bit cautious. For my case, I've chosen to pay with money in order to protect my data, which means that I can present it with much more personal data with a certain level of confidentiality. It's not that I fully trust this. I mean, it's not state secrets that I trust this service with, but I did pay with money in order to protect data, and now the data is protected. I can tell it things that are quite personal, both from my private life and from my professional life. I still see it only as a machine. I haven't given it any name. I don't treat it like a person, but I do communicate in ways that are quite comparable to how I would communicate with a person, because it's really made for that kind of communication. But it is because I have made choices about what subscription to use, how to actually give it relevant data, both in the overall memory and in specific contexts. And for my case, I have used it so intensely that I have filled entirely up the memory, and I had to restructure it to get it more efficient. And I've done it not only once. I've also done chat so long that it ran out of memory, and it takes quite a lot for the service to run out of memory. So it's also part of my approach that I'm curious about these services. And as I do IT courses, AI courses, and I get questions from my course participants, we try out different perspectives to it. It is really also about exploring what are the limits of these services, what are the pitfalls, what are the benefits, and what are the potential risks, because there are definitely potential risks to it as well.
So can you please give us some examples? What are actually the pitfalls of AI, just for people to know at least the basic one?
Yes. I think I will start out from really the trust. My starting point is that I don't fully trust these services. I might be curious. I might see what answer I will get from a specific question. I might start out by something that is just, normal day conversation without really any personal aspects to it or any professional secrets or whatever. And the better the answers I get, the better the service I get, the more I move towards actually trusting the service and actually trusting the provider. But I will adjust on a day-by-day basis, sometimes even on a hour-by-hour basis, because if I do the dialogue, so to speak. I don't know if it's dialogue as such, but let's call it dialogue about topics that it does know about. Well, I'm quite good off, but sometimes it's really about things that it doesn't know about. And I mean, if I present to the service who I am, it also starts out whether I actually myself understand who I am, and I might not in every detail. I probably don't in every detail. So sometimes it's also about what the service understands, what I as a person understand, and what the service doesn't understand. And
what we have to do firsthand is to train the AI tool in order to for him to catch our mindset, our lifestyle, our...
Yes, and before then, it's really about choosing a relevant tool. For my case, I mainly use ChatGPT for personal purposes, but I sometimes use Gemini. I use mainly Microsoft Copilot for work related tasks because it's connected to my other Microsoft services that are part of my professional toolbox. And in this situation, I have a fairly high level of trust in Microsoft. I have a little less trust in OpenAI, the supplier of ChatGPT, and I have even less trust in Google because I know from the history that Google is based on collecting personal data, using it for advertising, I can understand that basic trade-off, but there's more to the story. The user agreement from Google is quite intense, and I could go further down using the AI from Meta, but I trust that even less. So it's really also about the actual supplier. And then I didn't even go to the Chinese services, which I really try to avoid. There can be reasons for going down the path, but it also depends on the actual tool. It depends on the organization behind that tool. And it depends on the subscription because it might protect your data and it might not. So it's really about creating the right fundament, and from that start exploring what the tool can do and how it can do it the best. And in the case of presenting it with personal data or specialized data, well, you'll get a better service. It will never be perfect, but then again, I guess it emulates a human being, and I guess that human beings are not perfect either. So it's okay.
By the way, I heard that, and I also know that AI in general, they are built actually to answer you in affirmative way constantly. True. So from that point of view, is that true?
Yes. At least it's the starting point.
They never disagree. Almost.
You can ask it to be more critical. You can ask it to take on a different position, but it's true that it will by default be supportive. And that is, at least from my point of view, good up till a certain point. But that's really where I enjoy a lot my interaction with people, because it's not always about having the dialogue with the pleaser. It's also about the one asking you the tough questions and seeing what you don't see yourself, and doing the dialogue that you wouldn't even think of without the interaction from another person. So by default, these services are pleasers.
So you mainly personally, when you use it for your personal purposes, AI, for what you are using?
There are numerous situations. What
an AI can do for a person?
Yes. For my case, in my work life, I often go to other parts of the country, and sometimes I will sit in my car for hours. Sometimes it will be early in the morning, and sometimes there's really no one to talk to on the phone and nothing interesting on the radio. Sometimes I will put the phone in the clip in the car. I will open up the ChatGPT voice mode, and I will do a dialogue with the ChatGPT about whatever I'm thinking about. And as it is writing down that in plain text, once I'm no longer behind the wheel, I can go back to that dialogue and I can prompt it, and I can present it with documents or images, or ask it to make images or whatever. So sometimes it is really just about whatever is on my mind. There are also situations, if I am out in a park or whatever, I might see a flower or a plant or whatever, and sometimes I'll take a picture and I'll ask the service, well, what is this plant? Is this a fruit that I could eat? And if it tells yes, you can, I'll double check with another service because I never fully trust these services.
Definitely.
So it is really a very helpful assistant in many aspects of life. I can take a picture of my fridge and ask, can you suggest a healthy meal from what I do have in my fridge? So I often use it in speech, I often use it in images, really. And because I have the paid subscription, I have these possibilities. With the free one, you are a little more limited in that. It'll give you a shot, and then it'll ask you to wait for a certain time, and then you will have the next opportunity. But in my case, I'm willing to pay for getting a better service. So those are, at least from my private life, some of the scenarios. In my professional life, it can be different, but I hope it gives a first impression.
Denmark recently introduced laws granting citizens rights over their digital identity, including their face, voice, and personal data. How do you see this shaping the future of digital democracy and personal freedom?
Oh, that's a very good question. And there's really a lot to it.
Yeah.
Because on one hand, this specific law is moving us in a good direction, at least from my point of view. I am very much into protecting the person. I'm very much to the freedom of speech. I'm very much into democracy. I'm very much into making sure that people can interact with each other without being interrupted. And I hope that it is pulling in a positive direction, because I see so many signs moving in a, well, let's call it not so positive direction. And that might be because of American services, that might be because of Chinese services, that might even be about EU legislation. It is in some cases about Danish legislation, and sometimes it is really based on that the police should be able to make sure that they know about a crime even before it happens. I do understand that perspective, but sometimes it is really taking away freedom. It is really taking away privacy, and I'm slightly concerned. So I really hope that there's also legislation moving in a positive direction. I can say for my own part that there are situations where I put my phone completely away. There are situations where I prefer to pay in cash instead of using a digital card. There are situations where I really do an effort to be offline, because online is also about surveillance, unfortunately.
You see this as, of course, as a positive thing.
I see it as one step in a positive direction. I'm not sure whether it outweighed 9 steps in a not so positive direction, but that specific step, yes. And I think that as humans, the better we understand, the better we're able to navigate, the better we can navigate in this landscape, because sometimes it is complicated.
Yeah, that's why we are here today talking about this. So another example is after the recent drones swiping above Copenhagen, many Danes felt uneasy about surveillance and safety, because there were like some discussions among internationals and Danes, the fact that they don't really trust the government as such.
Yes. I will really start by going back to my overall perspective, that trust should be earned. And maybe the government does earn the trust. That depends on the person. Maybe the media earns the trust. That depends on the person. Maybe other countries or other world leaders or whatever earn the trust. That depends on their perspective. From my point of view, I surely do have a level of trust, but I also do have a level of, let's start by calling it curiosity, and maybe there's even more to it.
Do we really have to talk about cyber attack?
Well, that is happening already. I mean, for in that aspect, at least on the internet, we really are at war, and we have been for years. It did increase already when Russia invaded Ukraine, but it's also connected to conflicts in other places of the world, and it is connected to interests that might be geopolitical stuff, but it's really also about a lot of other things. For my part, I've been using AI, working with AI for many years. Part of what I do, only a small part, but part of what I do is about IT security. And in that specialty of IT security, people who are very skilled and who know a lot about it and who know how these things are made, they sometimes sell with a slightly dark humor that there are really two kinds of Danish companies. There are the companies that are compromised by the Chinese, and there are the companies that don't know that they're compromised by the Chinese. And that could also be about Americans, and that could also be about Russians, and that could also be about whatever. So it is indeed hard to protect, and it is really close to impossible to protect. And as there is regulation that the police should be able to see it, they build in backdoors, but those backdoors are not only used by the police, they are also used by skilled IT people from whatever organizations in whatever countries. So really, what is digital is by default not safe. That means that if we need something safe, well, it shouldn't be digital in the first place.
How do we avoid letting fear or overregulation slow innovation while still protecting people's privacy and sense of security?
From my point of view, we can go down the digital path. I will do it in many situations, and I'm well aware that in that situation I do get a lot of benefits from these services. It might be productivity and ease of use and whatever, but it's not safe. And
as an individual, how can I protect my privacy? Can you please give us a simple example?
If you want to make it totally private, it shouldn't be digital.
Okay.
That's really the short version. To give an example, when Israel was attacked, and I know there's a lot to this story, so I'm not sure I will go into details, but there was an attack. It was well described that planning was done with pen and paper, because if it had any digital aspects to it, the Israeli intelligence services would have known that something was up and coming. So really, if you want it to be safe, it shouldn't be digital. You can use digital for what is comfortable and productive and whatever, and not everything is confidential. But if you want total confidentiality, well, it just shouldn't be digital. And you still have options to choose from. You can choose to go in a forest and meet with a person and leave the phone in the car, whatever. You can choose to pay in cash instead of paying digital. You can choose to send a letter by traditional mail in a closed envelope. Whether or not you make that choice, well, that is really a choice. And it is often that the digital services will give you a lot of convenience and productivity, and it'll often be cheap and whatever. And there can be reasons for going down that path, but I think that we should be aware that there is an alternative path to choose, and there will be situations where it's worth choosing that alternative path. It might be more expensive, it might be more time consuming, it might be more troublesome, and it might be worth it all.
So how do we as citizens, as human beings, protect ourselves? There can be systems, some of them are complex, some of them are based on AI, but as human beings we should also do our part. I have some recommendations. It starts out from keeping your devices updated. if there is an update for Windows or Mac OS or iOS or whatever Android, whatever system you're using, I strongly recommend that you keep it updated, because there might be security holes and they will quite likely be fixed in these updates. There can also be functionality updates, but that's a different ball game. The next thing is about the password. Make sure that you use strong passwords. Make sure that you use a so-called password manager in order to remember all these strong passwords. I have it as an app on my phone. There are also other kinds of password managers. If you Google password manager, you will find good solutions for the purpose. Then in many cases you can use two-factor. Apart from only the password, there is also a second thing that should be approved. You can see it on the public sector with the system called NemID. You can see it with authentication apps such as Microsoft Authenticator. Sometimes you will receive an SMS code. So this additional factor will also improve the security. But I guess that's for the ones designing the systems. Then there is something about the pace. If an attacker tries to steal something from you, they will often try to create some urgency. So it's about click now, or do it before it expires, or last chance, or whatever. The better you can resist this urgency, the better you can have the time for thinking whether this is actually a legal and relevant mail and link and so on, or whether someone is trying to fool you. Sometimes there can also be something about user rights. On a normal Windows computer or Mac computer, whatever you use, you can be administrator, so you can install software and everything. It is also possible to have more limited rights. Many workplaces do it that way, that the normal user will have limited rights, because that means that they are not able to install software, which means that they're not able either to install malicious software. So there are ways of creating at least some protection. It is very, very hard to protect it all and very perfectly, but then again, the strongest attacks are towards the most, so to speak, attractive targets, the most valuable ones. So an individual will usually not be in that category. It will be much more about companies. It will be much more about big central and crucial systems.
This November 2025, internationals as well in Denmark will have the right to vote in local elections. What kind of impact could this have on civic engagement, inclusion, and the political agenda? What do you think about that? Do you think it's positive? Do you think it's negative?
I think it is mainly positive. There are very few things that are only positive or only negative, but I think it is mainly positive, because I think that people living in a society should have a say in that society. I think that it also comes with an obligation, and I really think that people who have the vote should also make sure that they understand what is the setting they're voting in, because there is a risk that influence from other countries, other interests might affect, and that doesn't only go for expats. That can go just as well for Danes. And I mean, there are interests out there on social media, on whatever, that is really connected to, well, let's just call it geopolitical services. But I think it is the right approach that people in a certain society should have a voice.
Denmark again has proposed banning smartphones in schools and limiting social media for children under 15. What emotional or developmental effects could this have on young people growing up in a digital-first culture?
To me, I do understand the aim of that, but I'm not so sure that the approach is the right one. Because
Why is that?
I see for a start that children are affected by people around them. And I see adults using and, basically abusing smartphones and digital services and social media and so on. And I think the children are affected by people around them. So I think it is about behavior at the end of the day. I think a lot of it is about family patterns. A lot of it is really about education, about what to do and what not to do. And we might go down a ban, but I'm not so sure that everyone will respect that ban. I mean, if people are into breaking rules, they will find their ways. So I think much more it is a question of education. It is a question of good habits, basically. But I guess that depends on the point of view.
So what you are saying is that it's more influential on kids under 15, for example, in this case, the behavior and the environment in which they are growing up, rather than the digitalization, right? In that sense. So
exactly. And I can see so many cases. I mean, drugs are illegal, but there are drugs out there anyways. There are speed limits on the roads, but not everyone follow those speed limits. So yes, there are rules, and there seem to come more rules, but whether or not people obey those rules, I guess that can be a different story. And I think it's much more about education than rules in itself. I do understand that there is a certain level for rules, but I think you cannot regulate everything, and I don't think you should regulate everything. I really think there are other aspects to it, and from my point of view, really much more important aspects to it if we want to succeed in this, and I definitely want to succeed in this.
Statistic Denmark shows that digitalization is dipping. Denmark ranks high in connectivity again and public digital services, but still gaps remain between urban and rural areas or small and large firms. Just giving you an example, on my phone, literally since the first day that I came in Denmark, my phone is full of apps that are related to public digital services, for example, just one of the examples, and then plus other services. So my phone, literally and physically, it's full of apps, downloaded apps.
Yeah, I think, well, where should I start? Because this is so interesting and it's such a big topic. I do see that there are differences. That might be about education, that might be about place of live, that might be about family patterns, that might be about a lot of things. And I think that the starting point is that we should create equal opportunities. And I think if we do create equal opportunities, and that might be in the educational systems, that might be in the political systems, the voting and so on, we have a lot of good aspects to it. And I think that if we regulate the tech industry, and I definitely think that the tech industry should be regulated, we can also make sure that every citizen has access to relevant services, being a web-based service, being AI services, and there are really possibilities of making choices for that. I mean, in many aspects, every citizen does have access to libraries, and libraries can give you internet access. Libraries can give you access to AI services, and it might be that the library system should... exactly. It might be different in other countries, but at least in Denmark. So I think that as a society, as long as we make sure that we do have access to education, access to healthcare, access to information, we're quite good off. And it might be that it should be supported by schools, it might be that it should be supported by libraries or whatever, and I think it's important to give equal access. Whether people use it in one way or another, I guess there are individual aspects to that, and I guess it's hard to regulate.
Common sense, personal common sense. Let's be serious.
Definitely.
Absolutely.
But I think that as long as we're well educated, as long as we do have equal access, well, so far so good.
Well, then what emotional costs come with living in a world where algorithms increasingly shape our perception and attention very much nowadays?
There are pros and cons to algorithms, just like there are pros and cons to so many other things. The good part is that you can get a more tailor-made user experience. It can really serve you better. But the risk is that we will end really in echo chambers. We will really see the news that is compatible with what we already think. We might get to a situation where we don't see other perspectives to it. And algorithms can strengthen that path down to the echo chambers and to basically rabbit holes. It can also be used in other ways, and there are ways of using it to support people actually meeting, people actually trying to understand each other, people actually try to work together, stay together, do things together. So if algorithms are made properly, they can be for the good as well. I think often algorithms are made by tech companies, some often really for the purpose of earning money, and sometimes in order to earn money, it's about showing ads. In order to show more ads, you will keep people longer times on the service, and they have found out that if people disagree, if they get angry, they will stay longer time on the service. So sometimes they really understand human behavior almost too good, and that means that it will strengthen what we already have. But then again, back in the story, when the services were not digital, there were also misunderstandings. There were witches being caught and burned on the fire or whatever. So I mean, it's not a new thing. It is really a digital aspect of human behavior, and I think as long as we're well educated, as long as we do we are all informed as well, because also information it gives you power for those at least who might not know the basic of AI tools or tech in general, so they can feel more safe. And I mean, technology nowadays, it's a lot about AI. Previously it was about the internet or social media or whatever. It has actually given access to relevant tools. It has contributed to lifting people out of poverty. It has increased the life expectancy. It has improved at least the physical health. I'm not always so sure about the mental one, but I guess that when presented with a lot of information, it's also about selecting. It is also about making choices, and it is really also about going offline and make sure that humans are still humans. So I think if used properly, it is really improving a lot of things for a lot of people in all levels of society.
So what responsibility do tech leaders and policymakers have to ensure that innovation remains human-centered?
I think it starts out from making sure that they deserve the trust. And I think that in order to deserve the trust, they should apply with regulations. They should apply with, the values. And from a Danish perspective, it is about democracy. It is about equal access. It is about making sure that we can trust what we see. It is about education. So I think as long as they are supporting the positive values of the society, I think they have good ways of earning the trust, but some will play by other rules. The world is big and Denmark is just a small country, and it's really about navigating.
So I only have one last question. Call it a note to your past self ritual. If you could go back and sit down with the past self version of yourself, what would you tell him?
Short version would be everything's going to be all right.
Because I do think it's very important to at least have a basic knowledge about AI tools, tech, and in general, in order for us to be secure, more secure, and to be more trustworthy while we are making use of AI tools and protect ourselves and our personal data as well. So thank you so very much for all this important info.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. I'm so much into getting access to relevant information. I'm so much into making sure that people are well educated. My contribution is one out of many, but I hope that I do a positive contribution in that aspect.
So how can people reach out to you?
They can find my website intellia.dk. They can find me on LinkedIn. There is really a link from my website, and there is access to other information. So I really think it starts from my website. Contact information is there.
Thank you for listening to this conversation with Bjoern Jensen. A reminder that technology isn't just about progress, it's about people. If this episode made you reflect on how digital life shapes your emotions, your choices, or even your sense of belonging, take a moment to share it with someone who might need to hear it too. You can connect with Kaare on LinkedIn and find more of his work on digital ethics and innovation in Denmark. And if you would like to stay close to these conversations, don't forget to follow Rewire to Rise on Spotify and YouTube. Thank you for watching. Stay sharp.